So today we're going to do the lesson a little different. It will be totally different from the recording you have, just to give you a deeper understanding of the topic events. And we're also going to look at how to use variables in a different way in JavaScript. And these are two topics that you will need, especially that most of you in this class might get through to internship, depending on how your interview goes. We open up internship applications from after the holidays on the 4th of January, and you get notifications and the process of application on that day. Just a little bit of background about the internship. It is very high speed. You will be having to work on projects from 6 different countries, which means that time zone is going to be a big factor. We are only required to be online 2 hours a day. And for the rest of the time, you can work offline, but for 2 hours, we need some pair programming, working on a health system for tracking infectious diseases for the government of some countries, and you get all the details for those projects. For those of you that will continue on after internship to employment, you will have up to 3 different fields you have to work on: education and healthcare. And so I'm giving you that background for you to know why you need to learn this in a totally different way, because these are the use cases, or these are the way it will apply to the kind of work that you're going to be doing. So let's look at how we use strings. So I have 2 of the different files open that we're going to be working with. We'll work with the event file and the intro file. So first of all, we want to look at how we use string templating, how we do templating with strings in JavaScript. And for templating, we want to be able to use variables. And for those of you who have taken Python, I think Edmond, you will know this. It will be easier for you. Edmond Pascalina, you will find this very easy. So yesterday we discussed how to write strings in single or double quotes, and we talked about how we use the backslash as an escape character when we have problems with the matching quotes for the quotes within a text and the quotes that surrounds the text. One of you, Emmanuel, you also asked about the backtick method, and we're going to use the backtick today and see where it is applicable and how you can use the backtick. Why we use the escape character most of the time, it is what is more prevalent, it is what people use most of the time, and you will find those methods that are more used as methods you want to keep using, because if you work in a team, you want other programmers to follow what you are doing. So you want to use commonly used, and then in events where you are innovating new things and you want to make decisions on using things that are a little more complex, then you can now make those kind of decisions based on the things that exist. Let's say we want to create a variable, and this time we don't want to use the quotation mark to write our strings. We want to do backticks like this. Now, when you use backticks, you won't have problems with your escape characters. You will not have problems with saying you have an apostrophe, you are putting a quote within your text, and then the JavaScript gets confused because of the surrounding string quotes. So at this point, when you put any single or double within, you quote your text, you won't have any problem with interpreting it. So we say the quick brown fox jumps over the little dog. And this is our text. We have done this with the backtick. It's the same thing as using single quotes or double quotes. We have a variable, let's say let first name, and the first name will be equal to, let's say, Megan. Let's have let last name be equal to, let's say, I don't know. Now let's say we define something called full name. Now, instead of trying to say full name is equal to first name plus last name, we can now use something we call string templating. And the way we do that is to use backtick. And let's say we want to put a welcome message, welcome. And one of you had asked this question in some earlier lessons, that if you want to write a welcome message, and this time you want it to be based on the person who is logged in or the user who is using it. This is where these variables come in. And I put welcome. I want whatever is stored in the first name variable to be what is displayed. So I'll use a $sign and a curly brace. And then I'll put the name of the variable, which is first name. And then I will put a comma. I want it to say last name too. Now, for those of you in Python, you must have seen this before when we do format string. So in JavaScript, we can still do that, where we use a $sign, and in a pair of curly braces, we write the name of the variable that holds the value that we want to display. So this is the same thing as saying welcome first name plus space plus last name. It's easier to and cleaner to do it this way. And let's say we want to display this on the page. We'll say document.get element by ID. And the ID we want to get is paragraph 1. Inner HTML. And we'll say is equal to full name. And when I refresh my intro page, I should get the full name written on the page. So now we see this is neater and a better way to do this, especially when you don't know in advance what value the variable is going to hold. So when it collects user input and you want to get what is on the form and you store it in a variable and you want it to change from person to person, you can just use this template method. Any question?
Yes, ma'am. I want to understand if the comma separating the variables, if it's a syntax or it's just meant to be as part of the sentence.
It's part of the sentence, it's not the syntax. So if I take it out now, we'll not have a comma between it. So save, we'll refresh, and we'll have it. So I use the comma to just say, normally I think in English language, if you put a comma after a name, it means that name is the last name. But in this situation, it was the first name. So the way you know if somebody's last name has come first before the first name is after a last name, there must be a comma before the first name. And that tells people that last name is what is written first, right? And so if you want to write it like that, normally it's last name, first name. And if it's last name first, there must be a comma before first name. I think that's the English language syntax for writing names. And then, but the comma is not a syntax, it is just part of a statement. So when you are using them, is a space separated list, like all the variables, it's not a comma separated list. Okay. Any more questions on this topic? All right, we'll move on to events. Now, an event is anything that happens to HTML elements. It can be something that is triggered by the user or by the browser. For example, when a user clicks a button, it is an event. When a page finishes loading, it is an event. When an input field loses focus, it is an event. When the mouse hovers over something, it's an event. So there are several kinds of events in HTML, and when all of these events happen, we can trigger HTML code, JavaScript code, or execute JavaScript code. And when we get to document object model, we'll see how the document object model helps JavaScript to access, change, modify, delete, update HTML elements. Now with JavaScript, we execute the code that we want to execute when events are detected. We also have event handlers that helps us to do things. So for today, we're just going to look at how to use events to change what is in an HTML element or to fill in an input field when something happens. And this is more useful in the hospital settings where you don't know in advance what the different doctors or nurses units of measurement will be. You can take temperature in degrees Celsius or in degree Fahrenheit. They take weight in pounds or in kilograms, height in centimeter or in meter. When the child comes, height will be taken in centimeter. When an adult comes, in meter, in feet. You want to have your form. Let's say you have an electronic system that does the automatic conversion from one unit to another. You don't want the doctors to be the ones to want to convert the unit of measurement that they used. So in the case of temperature, we have degree Celsius and we have degree Fahrenheit. We have specific formulas for converting degree Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius. And so those are the things you need to research to know what is the formula for converting the value from Celsius to Fahrenheit and what is the formula for converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. Formula for converting pounds to kilogram, kilogram to pounds, centimeter to meter, meter to centimeter. And what is the formula for calculating BMI? So that is what we are going to work with today. And we're going to use this to illustrate the concept of event. So I'm going to delete all of this and then we'll start. For us to start, we want to have a form in the body area. And this is the form that we already have. I have it designed here to save time. So I won't use this intro page. I'm going to use the event page. Now, what I just did here is using my style sheets to style this. And so in the previous weeks, in part 2 of the course, we have done all of this where we have different containers, we style them, we have rows and columns, and that is what this is doing. We created row and then different columns. So ignore the different styles and let's focus on the input field. Now for this, I want to define the temperature, which is what is here. I want to have an input type of text and the name is temp ink, and I want this to hold the degree Celsius value. I also have a radio button here that when clicked converts whatever is here to Fahrenheit. I have that here that when clicked converts whatever is in the Fahrenheit to Celsius. And I want it to be displayed inside the form. The same thing with the weight and the height. And I want it to now calculate the BMI of the person automatically when the weight and the height is filled in and focus leaves the height input field. So let's do that. On this form, there's an attribute, an HTML attribute we call the onBlur attribute. And onBlur just means if you put onBlur, you want it to run a function. It means that when focus leaves, so if I'm on the degree Celsius and focus leaves here, this is now onBlur. If focus leaves Fahrenheit to here, this is onBlur and this is on focus. So we have on focus, we have on blur, we have on mouse over. So research the different HTML attributes that deals with events. So we're going to be using on blur attribute and on click. On click means when you click a particular thing. So when I click this button, I want something to happen. That's on click attribute, right? So on the input field, I have decided to say for my temperature in Celsius, once focus leaves this, I want to write a JavaScript function called auto3, and I want it to run that function. Now, what I want this function to do is to calculate whatever is entered in Celsius to Fahrenheit. When this is clicked, I use an onClick attribute on that radio button, and I say when that is clicked, run a function called toF. So we're going to create all of these functions in this lesson. Run a JavaScript function when an onClick event happens on this field. When an onBlur event happens on degree Celsius, run a function called auto3. Also, the same thing for the input text for temperature in Fahrenheit. We also have an onBlur attribute to say that when something onClick attribute here, when something happens here, to click on the degree Celsius, it should convert whatever is entered here to Celsius and input it here. So what I want to achieve now is to make sure that if this is calculated on blur, it should fill in this automatically. And if this is filled in and we click on convert to Celsius, it should fill in this. So those are the functions we want to create in JavaScript. And we want to trigger them using the attributes for events. So when we get to the weight in pounds, we want to run an auto function on blur, and we're going to create that function. When we click on convert to kilograms to kg, we want to create a function called to kg, and we want it to convert it to kilogram. The same thing with it to pounds, the same thing with the auto2, where we want to convert height in centimeter to height in meter, and we want to say when it is on height in meter and it loses focus, it should calculate the BMI and we use that to say BMI2 function. So these are the functions we'll create above here now. So the first function we want to create now is the to Fahrenheit and to Celsius function. And then you can, while we're talking now, try to research what the formula for converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit is. So let's do that. Let's say to Celsius. We've already looked at how to create functions in JavaScript, and we'll say we use the function keyword like this, and the name for the function, let's say to Celsius, and we'll do to C. That's what we use here, to C. And okay, let's make it easier. Let's start with the functions that are easy, and then we'll go down. To convert from kilogram to pounds will be easier because we'll know that 2.2 pounds make 1 kilogram. So let's do that before we go to what will make us research. So let's say 2 kg is the function I want to write. And I want this to take a parameter. And the parameter is going to be whatever is entered into the pounds. So let's say is kg. You can give the parameter whatever name you want. So when you want to enter that, it's going to be whatever the user fills into this. I mean, it's a little complex. I'm going to explain it again when I write the function. Now, we have not gotten to the topic of manipulating forms yet, but I'll tell you what the syntax is. When you fill in a form and you want to get the value that the user has entered into that form, in JavaScript, the syntax is writing document dot forms dot the name of the form name dot input field name dot value. You are going to replace form name and input field name with the name you've given to your form and the name you have given to your input field. Here we gave this form the name vital signs, and the input field here has the name temp ink, and here has temp units. So all of your input field must have names. Your form must have a name. So when you want to get input that the user has entered into these forms, you say document. Now take note that it's a singular spelling, document, and the forms is plural, document.forms dot, then you insert the name of the form, the name of the input field, and the value. Dot value, not the value. This is dot value. Value is just the fixed syntax I have to do. So you put that there, dot value. And so this is going to give you the value that is entered into that field. So we're going to do this in details later, but we need this syntax for us to be able to write this function. What we want to do here is that if we want to convert to kilogram, we want the parameter that is entered, which is kg, to be equal to the value that the user has entered in pounds, which is going to be, let's look at what it is in pounds here. Here, the weight in pounds here, let's look at it. The weight in pounds here, the name is weight in pounds. The name of that field is weight in pounds. And what we want to do is to get the weight in pounds field. The name of the form is vital signs. And the name of the input field is weight in pounds. So we'll say this is kg. The parameter should be set to document dot forms dot the name of the form, which is vital signs, dot the name of the input field, which is weight in pounds, dot the value. And I've told you that to convert.
Hello.
Yes?
I wanted to request maybe, the first one you put document.form.name dot the other value. I want to request maybe you could put it as comment so that, like, to me, I would need to.
You guys a comment.
Yes, thank you.
So document dot forms dot form name dot input field name dot value. So that's what it is. So you use this to get the value entered into.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So we want to set the name of the parameter is kg to be equal to the value entered into the weight in pounds field. And so we get that by saying documents.forms dot the name of the form, which is vital signs, dot the name of the input field, which is weight in pounds, dot the value. And I've said that to convert from pounds to kilograms, 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. And so we want to divide the weight in pounds by 2.2 to get the weight in kilograms. So you insert your formula there. So now we know that whatever is entered into the weight in pounds field, divide it by 2.2 and insert that into the weight in kilogram field. So the user will not have to do unit conversion, the system will do it automatically. So once this is done, we want to now set the value of the weight in kg automatically. In JavaScript, you can write to HTML elements using events. And again, we will say document dot forms dot the name of the form is vital signs dot the name of the input field now we want to write to is, we have weight in pounds, now we have weight in kgs is the name of this input field. So we want it to automatically fill in when the weight is in pounds is entered, we want it to fill in the weight in kilograms. And so we'll say weight in kgs dot value is equal to, is going to be equal to is kg. Maybe we want to have a fixed floating point number. We have a method called to fixed like this. I'll say dot to fixed. I want it to be in 1 decimal place or something. But you don't have to put the to fixed one, just is kg is equal to is kg. Okay? Or if you don't want it to be redundant, you can just say this is equal to this at the beginning without setting it to a variable called is kg. But we set it to the variable because it is a parameter like this. So we are done creating this function that converts this. Sorry, hold. Yeah, sorry. So we've done the weight in pounds to kgs, and this is the function that we use. So you should send it directly. Let's do the function of converting to pounds from kg, and then let's test it and see if it works. Okay, so let's say the next function, let's give it a name that we already used here, and the name is going to be to pounds. Pounds is written LBS. Okay. I will compress all the videos all together after tomorrow and upload it to your Saturday's content. So we have function to pounds. We want to get the parameter we want to enter here. Let's give it a name. Let's use the same syntax, is pounds. And then we want to do something with this. We want to set is equal to document dot forms dot the name is vital signs dot, and now we're getting the value that the user has entered into the weight in kg field, and the name is weight in kg. The name of that input field is weight in kgs dot value. Now, if the weight is in kilogram, you want to convert it to pounds, you are going to be multiplying by 2.2. So now you see the importance of all of the basic knowledge that we built up to this point, where we know what operators exist, we know what the multiplication sign is, we know what the division sign is. And so these are the time where these things become useful. So we have the value times 2.2. And then we want to set this to update the value of the weight in pound field. So we'll say document dot forms dot vital signs dot weight in pounds dot value. We want to set this to be equal to the is pounds that we did, and then we can just say dot to fixed. We want it to be 1. So now these are the functions, and here we already put the function for it to run it to convert to kg and to pounds. So let's try to see if this works. So if I convert this to kilogram, let me say I have a pound of 220. We should get to kilograms. We should convert this to 100 kilograms. So the button is not yet working, and we don't have this working yet. So let's go and see why this is not working. So we have this to be weight in kgs. We have this to be, the name here is weight unit. On click, run to pounds. We have this to be, on click, to kg. Okay, so we have 2 kg is the function, and we want this. So let me refresh this and see if it works now. So the weight in pounds here, 220. When we click this, it should fill in this to 100 kg. If I fill this kilogram here, let's say we have 220 kilogram, and we convert to pounds, it should update that. So we see that this is working. Now, if we don't click on the buttons and we say we want to do it on blur like we specified, and I have 220, when focus leaves here, it should automatically convert this. So I'll clear this and I'll write 220 and then come here, and it's not converting. So we have to click to convert here like that, because on this weight in pounds and weight in kilograms, we don't use the on blur, we just use on click to say when this is clicked, convert them. So we see this working, so we know that we're on the right track. So any question before I do that for height and temperature and then BMI?
No question.
Okay, so you can go further by trying to put an on-blur attribute to say when focus leaves the pounds, it should automatically update this without you having to click the buttons to do the conversion. But this is one of the use case. Now let's create new functions that we want to use for the temperature. Now let's go back to look at the temperature. Temperature for degrees Celsius is named temp in C, and then if we click on the button, the name is temp unit. We want it to run a function called toF. So we have 3 functions here: auto3, toF, and to degrees Celsius. Auto3 is the one that will on blur automatically convert from one unit to the other, and then to Fahrenheit and to Celsius is the one that will control clicking the button, and auto3 will control the blur attribute. So let's do that. So to convert degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit, who knows the formula? Anybody research the formula? Okay, so I know that we are supposed to have if we want to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, I think it is going to be the value in Fahrenheit minus 32 times or divided by 5/9 or 9/5. I'll verify that now and I'll use it. Or anybody research?
Yeah, it's 5/9.
Yes.
5/9.
Times 9/5.
Oh, it's times 9/5.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
5/.
It's
No, from degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit is times 5/9, right? Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius is what? Is it divided by 5/9? I don't understand.
Divided by 5/9.
Okay, if it's divided by 5/9, so if you multiply it, it will reverse 9/5 times 9/5. So you understand the mathematics there. Once you are dividing a fraction, if you change the division sign to multiplication, you have to inverse that fraction. So if it is divided by 5/9, it's going to be times 9/5. So divided by 5/9 is the same thing as saying times 9/5. Is it clear? Okay. So
Yes.
let's try to create a variable, and let's call this variable subtract. Let's break it down. We have a function called to Celsius, and then in the parentheses of the function definition, we want to put in a parameter, and that parameter, we want it to be the parameter that holds the conversion, and then we want to now send this to the value of the Fahrenheit conversion. And so let's create a variable. Let me use the var keyword just to be safe for now. And then when we look at the different scope, when you're building this in production, you look at the scope, and if it's going to work where the scope you want it to work, we use let or the constant keyword. So I'll say var subtract is equal to document dot forms dot the name of the form is vital signs dot the name of the input field is temp in F. That's what we saw there. Yes, temp in F is the name of the input field dot value, and we want to subtract 32 from the value in Fahrenheit. And then we want to say we want the value of Celsius to be equal to what we have stored in the subtract times. So 9/5 now will be 0.556, like that. And then we want to now send this to fill in the value of the Fahrenheit. So we'll have document dot forms dot vital signs dot temp. Okay, so now we're getting what is in Fahrenheit. This is 2 Celsius, so we want to fill in the temp in Celsius. Okay, so vital signs of temp in Celsius. So temp in C is the name. Here, the temp in C, the value, we want to set that value to be equal to C dot, I keep using to fix. So we're going to look at all these different attributes for floating point numbers or for decimal numbers to see how we can round to the nearest whole number or to one decimal place, but I'm using it to fix and I want to one. So we have created a function that will convert anything in Fahrenheit to Celsius. So let's create another function that will convert to Fahrenheit. Function to F, and we want to say the parameter is F. Now here we want to say let's say divide is equal to, I'm trying to reverse the formula. So when you reverse the formula, let's just create this. I'll say divide is equal to 1.8. And this is done by reversing the formula for degrees Celsius to this. And why I put the divide equal to 1.8 here is I don't want to have to deal with the precedence of the operators of saying, how do I put a parenthesis to see whether multiplication comes before division, division before addition. But when you try to do this, you might do it in a different way to define your function differently. So I'll say is Fahrenheit is equal to document, and you see why I just put the divide is equal to 1.8 one time. Document dot forms dot vital signs dot temperature in Celsius dot value, and we want to multiply this value by what we store in divide here, and then we want to add 32 to it. So you see why I put a variable instead of putting times 1.8 plus 32. I didn't want to have to deal with operator precedence, but I don't think it would have been complicated to just plug that in here. But let's do it this way for now. And then we'll now say document dot forms dot vital signs dot temperature in Fahrenheit dot value is equal to, we want it to be the value of this F dot to fix. So we've gotten the temperature in we got the temperature in Celsius and the temperature in Fahrenheit. Give me 1 minute to get some water, and then we'll test this and see. I will create the last one. I think we have 1 to auto 3. We'll create auto 3 and we'll see if it works. All right, so let's look at the form. We have to Celsius to Fahrenheit, and then we have the onBloor, and we want it when it is bloor, it should run a function called auto3. And what we want auto3 to do is to convert automatically from this unit to this unit. When this is bloor, automatically converted. So on bloor, we say run a function called auto3. So let's create the auto3 function that will convert that. So I'm going to say function auto3 I just want to illustrate the onBloor. And let's say auto3. And for this, we want it to maybe not take a parameter, or let's say to take a parameter called, let's say convert, a parameter called convert, right? And you can give your parameter any name you want. So now we have this parameter called convert. We want to now take it just like we did that the conversion here, to say we want this parameter to be set to the conversion. We want to see if we want it to be one way or two way. So let's try to do it one way, where if this is filled in, right, and it's blood, it should fill this in. But when this is filled in, we have to click the button to fill in this. So let's do that to say a one-way journey. And what we will now do is define a variable. Let's say let temp in Celsius. Let's see. I'm trying to think where I write. When let temp in Celsius be equal to document dot forms dot form name dot input field name for the temperature in Celsius is temp in C dot value. Right? And we want to say convert now is equal to what's now the formula for converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And we did that here. We want to say that temp in C minus 32. So the auto3 is almost the same thing as the to_C function here. In fact, it is the same thing as the to_C function. Okay, if we say no, the same thing as the to Fahrenheit function, because if we say let temp in C be this and convert to be temp in C, we are converting to Fahrenheit, so convert to be temp in C times so I'll just copy this. So instead of 5/9, we'll just convert it to 1.8, 9/5, 1.8. So we'll just put divide. Let's divide with 1.8. 1.8, and then let's say let MPC be this, and then we'll set convert to be equal to temp in C times divide plus 32. Right? And then we want to set this. So it's not different from the other one to the onBloor. So now let's just test this to see that these things are working right, and if not, we work our way through it. So we have to Celsius and we have to Fahrenheit. So let's write a temperature in Celsius, 37 degrees Celsius. Click the button, it converts to Fahrenheit. Perfect. And this is the correct conversion. And then let's try to clear this. let's just refresh, write in Fahrenheit, 100 Fahrenheit, and see what it is to convert to Celsius. Fine, it is working. Now let's try to use the auto 3 for the unblock. So I'll refresh this and I'll say, all right, temperature in Celsius, 100. And when focus leaves here, it should fill this in. So it's not filling in the unblock to run the auto 3. So let's look at it. So we want to say the unblock should run the function called auto 3, which is this. And it is not running that when there's a block here. So we're going to look at that, why this function is not called when that happens. But let's see if we'll do this and we'll say 202 and then unblock. It doesn't run that. So we want to work on the unblock attributes to see how it will, when blurred out, run this function to automatically fill in the values. So we'll do that later after we have done after we have dealt with all of the using the buttons to do on-click attributes. Okay, so this auto 3 is something we're going to revisit, and then we'll see why this doesn't convert. So for us to do the height in centimeter and the height in meter, we will create new functions now, and then let's look at what we use as the name here. So we have the radio button is called weight units. We have weight in pounds, weight in kgs. Okay, and when we on click attributes, we run the function to kg to pounds. We've done this. Okay, we have height units, height in m, and we have another one, height unit, and then we should have a height in cm. Yeah, we have height in cm. We run a function auto2 when it's on block. We run a function called to meter on click, BMI2, and then we run 2 centimeter. Now this BMI2 is on block. We want it to fill in the BMI field when it's on block. So let's create the rest of the functions as we have divided them. So the first one I want to create here is to create a function called to centimeter first. This will be easy because we know how many centimeter make 1 meter. So when we have values in meter, we multiply by 100 to get centimeter. When we have in centimeter, we divide by 100 to get meter. So we say function to cm, and put is cm. So is cm now, we want to set this to be equal to the value entered into the height in meter field, right? So we're converting the value entered into the height in meter field to centimeters. So we say document dot forms dot form name vital signs dot input field name, which is height in meter dot value, and we said anything converting from meter to centimeter by multiplying by 100. So just say times 100. And then we want to set the height in centimeter field to be equal to is cm. The document dot forms dot form name vital signs dot input field name, which is going to be height in cm dot value now be equal to is cm dot to fixed. Okay, we'll test this to see if this works, and then we'll do the same thing for the 2 meter. So function 2 meter. So you can see it's more convenient to write your functions and trigger the functions when you run event. So we say 2 meter, and we want to take the value entered into the height in meter field, and we want to divide it by 100, height in centimeter field, and divide it by 100 to convert to meter. So we say is meter. So you can name your parameter whatever you want. I'm just using any random name that just matches what I've been doing. So I'll say document.forms dot form name vital signs, dot input field name, which is going to be, we're taking the height in cm field now. With height in cm, dot value, and we want to divide whatever is entered in centimeter by 100. And then we want to now set the value of the height in meter to be the is m. So document dot forms dot vital signs dot height in m dot value is equal to is m dot suffix. Okay, and then we've done it to cm, we've done to meter. We want to do BMI 2 that will fill in the BMI field automatically once we have entered the height in meter. And to get the BMI, I think it is weight in kilograms divided by height in meters squared. I think that's the formula. Yeah, it's weight in kilograms. You said?
That, I think that's the formula.
That's the formula. Okay, weight in kilograms divided by height in meters squared.
Yes, yeah.
So we're going to create that function BMI2 to convert that. So let's create a function, and we'll call this BMI2. And what we want this to have is to let's say we have a parameter. I'm trying to think. Okay, let's say the parameter here is called convert, right? Let's just use the parameter called convert. And what we want to do with this is to get the weight from the field entered, the weight in kilogram. We want to get the height and then plug in the calculation and then send that to the BMI field. So we'll say let weight. I'll just use the var for now because I'm not sure if var is a problem. So I'll say var weight is equal to document dot forms dot form name vital signs dot input field name, which is weight in kilograms dot value. So we've gotten the value, put into the weight in kilograms field. We want to get that for the weight in height. So let's make this faster. I'll copy it and then I'll paste it here. Let's get the height here, but vital sign, and then this is going to be height in meter is what we need. Height in meter and dot value. But we want this to be, we say is we want to get this square, right? We want to square this value. So let's just do it height in meter square. So we can do raised to the power of 2. So that we'll just do the next line to set converts to be weight over height, since we've already squared it from here. So we'll say convert now will be equal to weight over height, right? And then we can now send this to the BMI field. And the BMI field has the name BMI. So let's see. I'm not sure if this will work, but let's see. If it doesn't work, we'll trace our mistake. So document dot forms dot form name vital signs dot input field name, which is BMI dot value is equal to convert dot suffix 1. Okay, moment of truth. So let's try this. Let's say we want the height in centimeter to be 100, which will give us 1 meter when we click on convert. Yeah, it's working fine. Let's say focus is here and focus leaves here and clicks here, and it converts the BMI to 0.0. Now let's use a particular height that will give us a better BMI. value that we can verify. So let's say somebody is 175 centimeter. When you convert to meter, it's 1.8 meter. When you click this, so the BMI is not calculating properly, it's giving us 0.0. So now let's retrace our step. Maybe this exponentiation is not working. That's the only thing I can see here. And we say height in meters squared. So let's say times, we just do it again and see if it works this time. And then when I save this and I refresh and I have 175 cm convert to meter, come here on blur, it's still converting to 0.0. So now let's see what is going on. So weight in kilograms, we've gotten it. We've gotten height in meter value. So let's just leave it as height in meter. This will not work. And then let's say this raised to the power of 2 exponentiation sign.
Please.
You see?
I don't know. Probably because the weight is not part of the calculation. I don't know.
You say the weight is not part of.
You don't have the value for the weight. Oh.
No, we have a value. Oh, yeah, we don't have a value for the weight. That is the problem. That's true. I only focus on the height. So because there's no weight, the BMI remains 0. That is exactly what the problem is. So let's say the weight in pounds here is, let's say 245 pounds. And we'll convert to kilograms. And then we'll have a height to be this. We convert to meter here, and then the BMI automatically calculates. And so that was the problem. So this is how we use events to do things on the client side. So calculations are automatic. And so for those of you that will find yourself in the field of embedded systems, when you create a calculator, what goes on under the hood is when somebody clicks this and wants to convert values, the values calculates like. There are many places where you can work with this kind of stuff, car manufacturing places where you do conversions, embedded system, wristwatch, things like this. And this is where you write all of these programs where they can select which units they want to use, and the system can calculate it from one unit to another. So I want you guys to try this Auto 3. I think I won't do that. I want you to try this Auto 3 that did not work, that we wanted to unblur, move to the next one, because we use the same BMI 2 here to use an unblur attribute to convert, to fill in this field when there is a blur event. So when we refresh, let's see what works. We have temperature, we can convert to Fahrenheit. We have weight in pounds, let's say 240. We can convert to kilogram. We have height in centimeter. We can convert to meter. And we'll click on this field, and when focus leaves this field, immediately that's unblur. It fills in the BMI field. So in that event, you won't struggle to calculate what's the BMI of the patient. Are they overweight? Another functionality that you can do is to now write to the inner HTML of a field that you have above here to say, give it the range of BMIs. At 33.7 BMI, the person is obese, right? So you want to say, put a flag on the patient's page that the client is obese based on the calculation that the system calculated. So these are the magic that happens behind the hood when you find all those systems and say this thing is calculating. There is no deeper science to it than all of this. So I want you to try to do an unblur for all of this that we've done. So instead of clicking on the button, use an unblur attribute, create a function like this Auto 3, correct this one, see exactly why this is not blurring to do the auto conversion when you focus leaves the field and do it. If I go too further today, we might end up getting more confused with too much knowledge in one day. So we'll meet tomorrow and try to do things we call event handlers, a different way where we trigger something, a function to run when event happens, and then we're going to look at other topics in JavaScript. So I don't know if anybody has more questions, and so I'm going to put this in a note. I've not updated notes. I'm going to have a new course resource with all the notes for what we have discussed so far. So you have the codes in the notes and you can try them out.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Please. When we were doing the formula for the temperature,
Yeah.
you use the decimals, like the 9/5 and the 5/9. You use the decimals instead, and I think we were explaining that, but I didn't get it. I didn't get that explanation well.
Okay, so if you are multiplying, right, a fraction. So if I want to say times 1/2, if I say divided by 1/2, if I want to change the division sign to multiplication to make it easier, so instead of divided by 1/2 and I change division to times, it means I have to inverse the fraction. So it's going to be times 2/1. So the same thing with this. If I want to say divided by 5/9, I will now say times 9/5. Okay, so if I multiply 9, if I do 9/5, I get 1.8 here. That's for the divide. And if I say it's 5/9, I'm using 5 divided by 9, then I get the 0.556 here. So I just converted that fraction to decimal just to make it neater, or you can leave it as a fraction. But you have to put a parenthesis when you use the fraction so that you can control the operator precedence. And the reason I converted them to conversion because I didn't want to deal with the operator precedence and saying that multiplication and division have the same precedence, but they are going to be executed from left to right, which means multiplication will come first, which will make this wrong. So it's either I put a parenthesis with a fraction or I just convert it to decimal. So this is the decimal of 9/5, and this is for 5/9. Do you understand?
It's clear now. It's clear. Thank you.
All right. So anybody has more question? So you combine this with what you have in your weekly videos. I try to make the live class a little deeper and more complex than the videos so you can learn things on a more deeper level. But you need both the content in your videos and the content in the live class for you to get a sound understanding of the topics. So we have event handlers in the videos that are posted. You can go through it and I'll try to create scenarios of form where we use these examples, when we use different things so that you have a total difference in what you learn in the live class and what is in your video for a more complex and deeper understanding. Okay, so if nobody has a question, I will watch out on the Discord channel if the class is going to hold 12, that is if it's going to hold at 5 or 2 hours later. I'm not able to decide in advance which of the 2 times will happen because I usually have several meetings that overlap, and so at the last minute I might have to change the time. But if it's not going to be at our normal fixed time, it's going to be 2 hours later like we did yesterday and today. So we're going to have another class tomorrow to deal with more complexities, and then next week we'll go back to our weekly live classes. Okay? All right. So thank you everyone and hope you have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.